Hi, everybody. This is Nick Meyer from althealthworks.com, and today I'm here with my friend Derek Henry, and he is the founder of HealingtheBody.ca, which is a natural and holistic health website based out of Canada. And Derek has overcome 13 different chronic diseases using his own research and his own natural healing methods, and he's helped to reverse chronic disease in 20 different cases, actually more than 20 different cases, but 20 different disease conditions he's helped to reverse using his Thrive online health program. So Derek, thank you so much for joining us today. And can you tell us a little bit about your experience in discovering natural health and making it a big part of your life and your profession?
Yeah, absolutely. So my journey to health started pretty early. In my mid 20s, I was trying to start to become healthier. I decided that's what I wanted to do. I seen too many people that were close to me that were having health issues and having a natural adversity to hospitals and doctors. I wanted to do whatever I could to make sure I stayed out of the hospitals, which was really at the time the only thing that, the only way that someone could supposedly become well. And then by age 30, due to just some toxic burdens and malnourishment, just due to the kind of lifestyle in the area I lived in, I started to have some health issues started to crop up. And, once one cropped up, and it was simply from I was working out, and um, the next day my hands were in a lot of pain, more pain than I probably had ever felt from a workout before. And I thought it was a little strange. And I was going to a physiotherapist at the time for a shoulder injury, which again was pretty innocuous. It was a kind of a weird shoulder injury, which now I can see was kind of a sign that something wasn't right inside my body. And then this happened, a couple months after that. And the physiotherapist had told me that there's no way that someone of my age should really feel that kind of pain just from a simple workout. So she suggested that I would go to a doctor, which would be common, obviously. And again, going back to my adverse reactions with doctors and hospitals and clinics and anything of the like, I didn't really want to go. So I waited a few months. And during that time, I was in a kind of a stressful job, a good job, but it was a stressful job. And things just got exponentially worse. Things really unraveled in a period of a few months to a point that it wasn't just my hands anymore. I was having extreme wrist pain. My shoulder pain was there. I was having a lot of bad neck pain so bad that I couldn't even move hardly 10 to 15 degrees to either side. It was really seizing up on me. And the whole left side of my body was actually seizing up along with other areas as well. Couldn't bend some fingers. Had, plantar fasciitis, shin splints, things like that felt like that. It was just overall kind of pain. So as this job was trying to wind down, I decided that I really needed to do something. I needed to go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor, of course, just ordered blood work. So here comes hurdle number two for me. I have to go get a needle to get blood work done. Well, again, wasn't too excited about that. So again, waited a couple months before that even happened. Eventually got the blood work done. They got it sent in. So I went back and met the doctor, and the doctor said something that I really didn't want to hear because I was obviously trying to be healthy in the first place. I really wanted to avoid doctors, and here I was in this very situation I was trying to avoid. And he told me that I had arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. And, from someone who's 30 years old who's trying to avoid this, that was a devastating diagnosis by the doctor at that young of an age, at age 30, especially at the time. So with that, prescribe some medications, right? This is how it goes, right? We know how it goes. You get diagnosed, you get some medications. I was really against medications, but at the time, my pain was so severe that there's no way that I could possibly go without them if I wanted to even manage, to work a job and live my life somewhat decently.
Yeah.
So I kind of took them. Sometimes I tried not to take them, but in most days I had to take them because there's just no way that I could get through a day without. And as I was doing this, I was trying to think of other ways that I could, improve my health. And there wasn't a lot of information on natural health back then, and none that I knew of at the time. But then I got referred to a massage therapist. So the massage therapist, started working on me and was telling me I was a very extreme case in terms of what she could see from what she could feel in terms of just the overall tightness and inflammation and soreness that I had in my entire body, let alone other things that were going on in my organs and things like that she didn't know anything about. But going to this massage therapist a few times a week definitely started to work out some of these issues. She's working out the lumps, I had in the side of my neck, and I had a golf ball sized lump on the inside of my bicep. This is was going on with my lymphatic system, how polluted it was. Just one of the many issues that I'll talk about in a minute. And but she started working this stuff out. And I started to feel better. I started to go to chiropractor. He started to do neck adjustments, which were a little bit scary at the time because when someone's cracking your neck, there's obviously some risk to that. But I found that none of these things had staying power. I'd feel good for a couple days, and then all the pain would come back. Like everything just kind of went back to where it was. So I was kind of on a treadmill. And at that point, about 7 or 8 months into that, I was referred to an article on broccoli from a site called News Target. And it was sent to me because someone wanted me to eat broccoli. It was on cancer, but it wasn't for me specifically, but with cancer. It was for a family member. And they thought that I would take interest in it and maybe I'd eat more broccoli. Well, they were right. I read this article and I thought, wow, like this is when my eyes first really got open to the potential power of nutrition. To me, it was the truth. It was like, this is going to work. I had no doubt that it was going to work. So I dove deep and I went down the rabbit hole. And I started to just change some simple things in my nutrition, eliminating some things and bringing some things in, like broccoli, for example. And as I started to do this, I started to feel better. So my belief that I could heal myself through nutrition and do it naturally was starting to become true. And shortly after that, I found a supplement that was able to squash probably 90% of my inflammation. So that was huge because that allowed me to come off medications, which I really hated to do and was just making my condition worse, really long term. So once I found that was a big step forward for me because now I can manage my pain on a day-to-day basis naturally without having to go through that kind of suffering on a day-to-day basis. So as I continued to do this, I did this over a period of 3 years where I would just I was eliminating things from my life, common things that most people would eliminate, and I was bringing things in. I was bringing in more greens, more produce, more obviously organic food. I was really starting to focus on organic food and started to kill some of my bad habits and bring in more good habits. And after I did this for 3 years, pretty hardcore, figuring things out though at the time. So I wasn't doing everything perfectly because I was figuring it out at the time. I started to resolve a lot of my issues. A lot of my pain started to subside and go away, and I was feeling better. Everything was starting to come back. I could feel my body was revitalized, but it wasn't enough. I had way too much that was going on. So another couple years of that really brought my body to a state where I felt normal in today's standards. So I wasn't completely healthy, but I was feeling normal. And that was after 5 years and probably 3,500 hours of scientific research and over $35,000 experimenting with alternative medicine, mainly just through therapies and supplements, not even talking about organic food and the extra cost of that. So there was a lot of money being spent there. All in all, it's probably over $50,000 in that 5 years I spent just on my health alone. It was my job away from my job. And so once I managed to do that, the next 5 years, I continued to do a little bit more. I cleaned up some of the areas that were really toxic and kept that moving. And so another 5 years of kind of experimenting, doing some more things and cleaning up some more core issues. I managed to heal myself of 13 chronic disease conditions. And one of them was rheumatoid arthritis. Some of the other ones were, candida overgrowth was a big issue for me. Autoimmune issues like leaky gut and hypothyroid. I had swollen lymph, which I referred to before, prostatitis. I had really bad liver problems and kidney problems. I had a lot of urinary issues, being up a lot of times in the night, 3 or 4 times in the night, just going to the bathroom all day long. I had a lot of allergies. Acid reflux was really bad. Of course, no energy, so I had chronic fatigue. Eczema, pretty much all over my body. And that had all evaporated. Anxiety, and I also had some pancreas problems. So through that, in total 10-year journey, a lot of the intense stuff happening in the first 3 to 5 years, I managed to naturally navigate my way back to not only good health, but better health than I've ever enjoyed, completely on my own, primarily through nutrition and supplementation, but there was other therapies, other remedies, other lifestyle factors that I also worked into the mix. But that's primarily how it was done. So this is what made me a believer, and this is what put me on the path to do what I do today.
And today, so you work with people who have lots of different health conditions and things like that. Are Can you maybe tell us what some of the biggest issues these people are having, and tell us a little bit about what your advice would be to people who are struggling with chronic disease, like so many people in America are today, and how you can go about attacking the roots of that and healing that naturally, even at a time in your life where you're stressed and you're working 9 to 5 and you have kids and you might not always have time to go to the health food store. What would your advice be to people like that?
Yeah, that's a lot of advice. I'd say to start with, first of all, some of the chronic disease conditions that I've helped alleviate, primarily through the things I just talked about. There's some bigger ones. A lot of digestive issues. IBS and Crohn's are two big ones that I've helped people overcome. Celiac. Then there's lots of different digestive issues. Usually, the only real difference is they're originating in different areas, and there's slight variations of each other. But overall, the same fundamental approach works for all of them. So there's been a digestive issue, colitis, IBS, Crohn's, celiac, all these kinds of leaky gut. These are all things that I've helped people clear up in a wide range of digestive issues. Another big one is hypothyroid. A lot of people are suffering that I see are suffering with hypothyroid. And of course, this is all connected with some of the other things I'm talking about as well. And that's a tough one, tougher. I mean, it can be done, of course, but you need to understand all the things you need to do right in order to overcome that. And it's simple in terms of the approach. You just need to understand all the details to overcome it. So hypothyroid is a big one. So that's a big one that I've helped people overcome. Rheumatoid arthritis. In my program, age doesn't matter. I've got 60, 70, 80-year-olds. They're in my program along with 30-year-olds. But I had a 67-year-old that overcame her rheumatoid arthritis and completely eliminated her medications in a matter of like 8 to 12 weeks. Kind of following the program. So that's a big one because rheumatoid arthritis, joint pain, things like that is a big issue these days. Adrenal fatigue is another big one. People are lacking, energy from that and from chronic fatigue. A lot of hormonal issues, popping up. Infertility even. I've helped a couple ladies through the program that couldn't get pregnant for a period of 3 years. And within, 12 weeks, again, I was able to allow them to get pregnant. Now they have children. Graves' disease, another part of the thyroid issue is you have hypo and then you have hyperthyroid for general categories, and hyper is when it's overactive. And so Graves' disease is one thing that I've dealt with as well, and someone dealt with extreme eczema and a bunch of things with Graves' disease, and we managed to cut that all back and get her back into a normal life. Weight loss, of course, is a big one, depending on how much weight you need to lose. This isn't a weight loss program that I operate that's helped people, but it does it has that side to it. So, losing 2 to 3 pounds a week is very common, sometimes more for someone depending on what they're doing. Skin disease is another big one. Migraines, liver issues, a lot of liver issues that have come up. Acid reflux is a big one as well. A lot of people are dealing with that one. That one's, fairly easy, generally speaking, when you do the right types of things. Anxiety and depression, we know that's a big one too. And when you start to reestablish your gut and your brain health and start to get those things moving a little bit better forward for you, then and there's a mindset piece in my program too that helps people overcome that. A big one though that I kind of really like too, that a lot of people don't think is that you're basically subject to have this disease for the rest of your life, is type 2 diabetes. You're going to be on insulin for the rest of life. This is the way it is. Type 2 diabetes, in my opinion and in my experience, is one of the easier ones to heal if someone's willing and ready to do it, because to me, it's a lifestyle disease, which a lot of diseases are. It's a result of what our lifestyle has been like. And, there's other factors as well, but our lifestyle is a big part of that. And nutrition, of course, is part of lifestyle. But once you're able to get into the right lifestyle plan, this stuff can be overcome. And this woman, proved it by eliminating, I think, 5 or 6 medications in a matter of 8 weeks. Feeling completely different and losing a lot of weight in the meantime. So that's a big one too. So these are the types of things that so far, in the 4-year existence that I've been doing this, these are some of the conditions that people have been overcome. And how do you do it, right? This is the trick. How do you do it? I mean, when I was doing this too, I had a 9-to-5 job. I never quit my job. I had to work on this, and I had to work on this on the side. Basically, it was a side business, not making any money, but it was a side thing that I did that I treated like a business, because I did 2 or 3 hours of it a day at least, focusing on my health outside of my work. So, understanding now that, people have this going on, they may have children, they have lots of different responsibilities, but of course our health's a big responsibility, because if you don't take care of it now, it's definitely going to make you take care of it later. It will eventually come back. That's not a scare tactic. That's just what it is. If you don't take care of it now, eventually it's going to come back, and it's going to be bigger, and it's going to be badder, and it's going to take you longer and more time and more money to overcome. That's just the way that it works, because it becomes harder to unwind the longer you let it go. So when you're doing that, you start with baby steps, 1 brick at a time. When you're building this wall, don't get into it getting all overwhelmed that I got to overcome my Graves' disease and I need the complete plan. I mean, that's good if that's the type of person you are. But if you're not and you're busy, then for me, the first thing you need to do is eliminate. So eliminate something from your diet or your life that you know is causing you grief. And a lot of people will know deep down that this is causing an issue. You don't necessarily know certain things because there's certain foods that aren't obvious, for example. But there are some certain foods that if anyone's been following anything with their health, they probably understand it's not doing them any favors. Example like that would be dairy. Any kind of milk or cheese or anything like that. Any of those types of dairy products can be very difficult. Or gluten. And some of the glutinous, grains. Alcohol could be a big one. Stress. I mean, stress is a big one too. That's sometimes maybe a bit tougher because that's a mindset thing, but that's a big one. Coffee is even a big one. A lot of people are drinking a lot of coffee, and that doesn't usually help the healing process. In fact, for me, it's done the exact opposite. So even eliminating something like that. So just take one thing that you can eliminate that that's causing you problems, or you're pretty sure it's causing you problems, and get it out of your life. So start with that, and then add something in. That would be your best 1-2 punch. Then add something in that would add more to your health. There's lots of different things you could do. The easiest thing I think in my opinion, would be probably smoothies would be the easiest thing for you to do in the beginning. Because, you can make salads, you can start to make probiotic foods, you can start to juice, but a lot of those take some time and they take a little expertise. In the beginning, smoothie's not tough. Anybody can do it. A 10-year-old can make a smoothie. Once you understand kind of the ingredients to put together, you threw some low glycemic fruits together, maybe a little bit of greens, maybe some greens powder to make it really potent. Some healthy fats like avocado or chia or hemp, and some pure water, maybe even some coconut milk. Who knows what you want to put in it? But the point is, all these pure natural ingredients, you put that in there, you're probably getting more nutrition than most people will get in a week across the board by just having the right smoothie. And I never had anyone who started a smoothie habit not like it.
Yeah.
Not appreciate what it could do for them, because you always feel a little bit better. You get in a smoothie habit. I mean, I remember getting on smoothies. It's like, wow, like I'm feeling better. I'm feeling good, and everything feels a bit. It takes a few, a week maybe sometimes to kind of get into and get it going. But you feel lighter. You feel a little bit more energetic. You start to feel that you might be cleansing a bit. It's one of the easier ways to do it. It only takes you 5 to 10 minutes a day, and doesn't have to be expensive too. I mean, juicing can be expensive with organic, fruits and stuff, because you get a little juice out of them, and it takes quite a bit of organic fruits and vegetables. With smoothies, I find they're much more economical, and you still get a lot of power. So that's a good example of how someone can start. Eliminate one thing out of your life, more if you want, but start with one for sure that is causing you probably the most issues that you can get rid of, and add in one thing into your life that can make a big difference, like a smoothie. And that's a good 1-2 punch to get you started. And then from there, just keep on doing that. Eliminate something else. Eliminate the second thing. Add in the second thing, like salads, or eliminate something else, and find other ways to add in fruit to your daily routine, and vegetables, especially. And then add in some probiotics, and you just keep on going back and forth. And keep on reading, keep on researching. As you and I have discussed before, the big difference now is that back in the day there wasn't that many sites or things that you could rely on for health. Now there's too many, being that there's a lot of conflicting advice. It's an overwhelming amount of information. People are like, how do I sort this out? Like, who's right, who's not? And, in that realm, this is part of what I've done too, is kind of deciphered that. And because I've had my own real world experience and experienced other people, I know what works and what doesn't. I'm a proven living proof of what can happen when you do it. So I've been through it. So when you've had that intimate experience, it gives you a whole new level of understanding of health and what actually works, what doesn't, what could be harmful, what isn't. So for any of your, for anybody who's listening to this, one site that I would humbly suggest is my own, if you want to get started just on nutrition and natural remedies and those kinds of things and cut through all that stuff, HealingtheBody.ca, and you can get started and you can start to realize what's going on with your health, and you can start to get that information, and maybe just rely on 2 or 3 sites, I'd say, because who you listen to is important in terms of understanding what to do next. And don't overwhelm yourself by listening in on every single group and every single site, because I did that towards the end, but I was feeling a lot better by then, because you'll drive yourself crazy. I'm sure a lot of people are probably feeling that way. So that's kind of my advice to get started and stay on the path.
That's very exciting and very promising for a lot of people. I guess the thing I was just thinking about is it seems like a lot of people are able to start a lifestyle like this, but then they end up hitting different roadblocks. Can you talk about what people can do to get over those roadblocks when they inevitably hit them, and also tell us a little bit about the Thrive Online Health Program and the different features that it has in terms of helping people in that respect?
Yeah, sure. So with with the roadblocks, you're right. They'll inevitably come up if you're dealing with any kind of health condition that's a bit chronic, whether it's an allergy or something really serious. There's going to be roadblocks because once you start to do this, and if you actually have the right plan together and you do it correctly, there'll be cleansing symptoms, there'll be detox symptoms. You won't sure if this is good or bad. You won't know, am I allergic to this food, or is it simply that I'm cleansing? There's lots of different things that'll happen, and unfortunately, with the main healthcare system, there's not a lot of support that you need to overcome these things on a day-to-day basis, because really that's what it is day-to-day. It's really like, coaching in a sport. You need to be coached consistently until you kind of get out of the woods. And, your doctor is not going to be able to supply that information. I mean, I think the average is 7 minutes with your doctor, and your doctor doesn't have that information. 99% of them don't have that information anyway. They can't give you that information because that's not how they're educated. That's just the way that it is.
And I have to wait. And I have to wait for an hour to get into his office for that 7-minute meeting.
Right, and sit in with a bunch of other sick people and germs. And there's just a lot of things that make. And this is part of why I never liked hospitals, clinics, and things like that. It just was an energy that I did not want, and I knew that was just going to make me worse. Yeah. And there's an upgrade too, right? You can go to your naturopathic doctor, and they can give you some more time in the first instance. A lot of them will give you 60 to 90 minutes. But sort of like the doctor, eventually you can't be texting these people, you can't be calling these people, you can't be checking in with these people saying, this is what's happening now, what do I do next? That's not the model of care that they have. So you can't check in. So a lot of times you end up stuck. And if, say, for example, there's something that you might have, Nick, that's an issue, and for me, and for the support that I offer, and this is what people need, they really need support, they need some kind of coaching if they want to get through some of this stuff, is that, I can answer something within, minutes, usually within an hour at least, where if you had to wait for a naturopathic doctor to ask a question, you might have to wait a month, 2 months, 3 months to get an answer to that question that you could have solved a long time ago. You can imagine if I'm knocking out, for example, if I knock out 10 or 12 questions to get people through a certain period, and you're going based on what I just talked about and how often you get in your naturopathic doctor, this could take you a year to 3 years just to get through that hurdle. That's way too long. And this is the issue. That's way too long to wait to be able to get over something, because you need some momentum, especially when you're healing. Momentum is key. You need to get in on a roll and get moving, because once the body gets in momentum, then things start to unravel a lot faster. But if you're stopping and starting and you're in a rut, just like if a car's in a rut, you're just going to rock back and forth. And a lot of people probably have had this. You get a little bit forward, then you fall back in. You get a little forward, and you fall back in. It's just this back and forth, and it's so frustrating to have to deal with that. So in the case of what I offer, for example, in the support that you get, I mean, that's key. No matter who it is that you're working with, having that support on a day-to-day basis, to me, is extremely important, especially the more severe your condition. But even, lighter things, like I said, like allergies, there could be things that you don't understand that you might not ever get because you haven't been coached through it. So, for example, with the Thrive Online Health Program, we have a support mechanism put in for that very reason, because no one really else offers that in the system, for sure. Where there's 24/7 support, basically. It's online support, and people can check in and ask questions and kind of get through these hurdles and get over these roadblocks that are inevitably going to come up, so that you can keep on pushing through, so that you can get a result. If you're motivated and you're doing everything that you need to do, and you're asking the questions when you need to ask the questions, you can get results in 8 weeks, for what example took me 5 to 10 years. That's the difference in having that person there on a day-to-day basis, because otherwise you're spinning your wheels, you're not sure what you do. You go months not even understanding. You go years without understanding what's happening, where someone who's been through it and understands it could tell you that answer right now, and now you can move forward rather than waiting. Can you imagine waiting for an answer that could change your projectile of turns you do it in 5 minutes as opposed to 5 years? And that's how different it could be. It could be a simple answer that person can't find. They might not find it till 5 years later, where someone else could tell them right then, and they can move forward. How much quality of life could you increase by knowing that information if you're motivated and going? That's why I put that mechanism in there. And really, it's for people who work with me, that's their favorite part of the program, is having that community, having that expertise to tap into, so they can overcome the roadblocks and they can keep on moving forward in a really efficient fashion.
And this is the Thrive Online Health program, health coaching program, and there's a sale going on until Sunday, correct?
Yeah. The program's Thrive Online Health Program, and until Sunday, September 30th, midnight Pacific Standard Time. There's a $50 discount on both program paths. The two paths there's a solo journey, I call it, where you kind of get the information, the education, the diet, all those different things, supplements. You get all that laid out in front of you. You get to make your choices based on what's going on with your life. So there's not a support mechanism with that. So it's a bit more economical for some people. And then there's an interactive program, which also has the Thrive Health Desk, which I basically just described to you, that online support that's open all the time, so that people who need that expertise, that health coach, that person to help them get through the things that, that is going to make the big difference, and to have that community support of people who get you. You get that with the interactive program. So both of those are at a $50 discount until Sunday, September 30th at midnight Pacific Standard Time.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Derek. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you'd like to say about just overcoming chronic disease naturally, or your program, or anything like that before we sign off?
I think the only thing that I would ever say is that for someone to really become well, you obviously have to have belief that the natural way can work, first of all. And you need to have a little motivation, of course. And it doesn't have to come out, flying out of the gates. I think most people who overcome chronic disease weren't fortunate enough to have someone to help them necessarily. So they figured it out on their own. So a lot of us that have done this, there's not probably a lot of us, relatively speaking, but for those who have, know that it wasn't an overnight success. It took a little time for that to happen. And that's why people like myself have created the Thrive Online Health Program, because as I described, I basically took my 10 years of research experience and all that stuff, and I shoved it into 8 weeks of very practical, simple information that you need to know in order to become well on all spectrums: nutrition, like I said, exercise, digestion, immunity, eliminating toxins, everything. It's all the core stuff is in there. So, if you're someone who wants to do your own journey, then prepare to buckle down, and you're going to have to do lots of research, and you'll figure, but keep on the path. You might figure it out eventually. For those who don't have that time and they just want the information delivered to them on a silver platter and be able to do it and have a mentor that's there, then that's what a program like the Thrive Online Health Program is for, is to cut that journey from 5, 10, 15, some people, 20, 30 years figuring this information out, and really getting it in a matter of 8 weeks is a big deal. So that's who that program is really catered to.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Derek. I really appreciate your insight and your perspective as always. And we'll talk to you again soon.
You bet. Thanks, Nick.